All right, so quick little status update. This morning we started into the wheat, finally. It's June 3rd. This is by 3 or 4 days the latest I've ever seeded. So right now, Dad is in my only field of wheat this year. It's about 300 acres. And then he has one that I sprayed. It is about, so over there would be the farm, about a mile. Over this farm, about a mile and a little bit, mile and a quarter. We have a little better than a half section there. That's going to be wheat. That was peas last year, and it seemed really dry up nicely. This, on the other hand, this is our, we call it the airport. It's a half section. And I don't know if you can really see anything airport related. Well, there's a row of buildings right there. Those are all airport hangars. And then the runway goes all the way to about the end of the dog kennel over there. And then we have a private road that runs back and forth. That's my brother's shop. Right there. Behind that is Carlisle. There's Merritt Ford. So I am out, and you can probably tell this is a very flat quarter. It undulates maybe a maximum of 2.5 feet over the entire field. Does not drain particularly well. As well, it actually gets drained onto. For some reason, there's like an overflow. So normally water flows on the east side of the highway, and you can't see it, but pretty much where my finger's pointing is a culvert, and it sits a little bit higher than the water run. And if the water's really bucking, it flows out this way, and it kind of goes this way, and it dribbles that way, and it goes that way, and this whole side's usually a mess because of it. And it's really stupid because there is so much more capacity for water to flow that way than the overflow. Like that, you would have to have astronomical flooding to actually need that capacity. So I believe Dad has talked to somebody at the Water Authority or Department of Highways about potentially diverting that. We are waiting to hear back from it. Anyhow, I'm taking the ultimate 4x4 out to scout this field. And we have 3 quarters in a row this way. That's all going to be wheat for Dad. And then we have another 2 going north and south that are canola. Now, you can probably see there's a lot of carpet here. This is all, shouldn't say all, but pretty much entirely, I haven't seen anything but volunteer canola. So you can see this. This is canola stubble, and not quite hollowed out. Sometimes they hollow out, but it's nice and dry, which is good. This was one of our last fields harvested last year. This was 357P. It looked really well. It just ran out of moisture for the most part. The big problem with canola is that it's such a small seed, and then you end up with what are called aborted pods, or partially aborted pods, or you have pods that start filling and then they run out of moisture, so you get these little pepper flake looking seeds. Most of those don't germinate, and I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. So your first instinct might be, well, Devin, if it's so wet, why are you worried about killing canola? Well, because we need to have about 6 plants per foot to have an effective, per square foot, to have an effective crop. That means that well, the reason for that is twofold. I think I touched on that in that other video, but if you don't have enough plants, once they get mature, they don't carpet out enough or canopy out enough to cover the ground. Once they cover out the ground, there's not enough energy for new plants to, even though they germinate, they won't get out and get the solar energy and be able to photosynthesize, and they'll die off. On the flip side, if you have too many, for example, like this, where if I was to do a square foot, so we're 1 foot between, back up, we are 1 foot between centers, do this without getting freaking eaten. So 1 foot square, that's a square foot. I can see in that area 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There's probably 50 plants in that square foot. They're all competing with each other. See, it's not entirely, that's a roundleaf mallow right there. So it's not entirely, and that's a red-rooted pigweed, I think, over there. Another roundleaf mallow, that's maybe something. Anyways, we need to kill the weeds. We also need to kill the volunteer canola. Because, as I was saying, there gets to be way too much plant population. They're all competing for the same ground and the same nutrients. They eat up all the nutrients, but are not able to become real producers because they run out of nutrients at a short stage. Your second, I kind of got off topic, but your second thought might be, wow, Devin, you guys have a lot of volunteer canola. Should you guys be thinking about changing combines because that's getting thrown over? The answer is no. Everybody in the area has extreme volunteer canola this year. Except, well, our pea fields are pretty good. That's because they got a really good kill. That's a different story. But the reason why is because a lot of the plants had those partially aborted pods or partially filled pods. And then those seeds are so small that there's almost nothing, like you got to run such low wind speed to catch it, but then you end up with way more chaff and junk and a dirty sample, and then that goes into the bins and that ends up holding moisture, it heats, and then you lose your canola. So there's nothing to gain from this volunteer canola. It's all those tiny little, a lot of them can be the size of a, I'm trying to describe this funny, but like size of a grain of sand almost. Yet for some reason, well, and keep in mind, they're sitting on the surface. So their roots, they don't have to have a ton of energy to pop through. And their roots aren't going to chase water all that deep either. They're going to be weak plants. So there's no value in it to us. There's way too much plant density to be effective. And there's also weeds that need to be killed. So that's the story of volunteer canola for this year, is that everybody had a lot of those seeds that fizzled out and they were too light and they got thrown out the back of the combine. And keep in mind, we still had 40 bushel an acre, or I think it was 37 bushel an acre canola off of this field. So it's not like we were losing much. You know, you see millions of seeds per acre, but those seeds just they don't add up to anything. And to keep those seeds, you risk adding a bunch of other dockage that you're going to have to truck to the elevator that you don't get paid for, that you have to put in the bin, that could heat and destroy your canola. So there's no value in it. Now, I forgot what the next thing I was going to say. Yeah. Anyways, volunteer canola bad. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. So because this is wheat, we are going to add some of that. It's a FMC precision pack to our glyphosate. And notice I said glyphosate. Well, Devin, isn't it Roundup Ready canola? No. We grow Liberty Link canola. And that, God, these mosquitoes are bad. All of a sudden, wind's dying off. That is not glyphosate tolerant. It is glufosinate tolerant, slightly different chemical, which we like to keep or like to use in the rotation for that very reason, that it is a lot cheaper for us to kill canola when it is volunteer, cheaper and easier to kill canola when it is not Roundup Ready. But we put this DB878 down because it has tribenuron, which is express, and dicamba. And it will nuke this stuff. And not only that, it has a little bit of ground residual on broadleaf, so it will keep some weeds suppressed for a little bit, and it doesn't hurt the wheat at all. Another thing to note about the volunteer canola is that you can see there is some flea beetle damage in places. Morning, everybody. So we are late. I'm not even sure what date it is. Finished off my wheat last night, moved back around the farm, and I wanted to, so I'm out in the field. Wow, there's a lot of flea beetles out here. Hopefully they eat up this volunteer canola, but I wanted to show you the difference in spraying versus spraying our, I want to call it cover crop, but we didn't plant it, at least not on purpose. So you probably saw in a different video, I had the sprayer hose blow up, and you can tell, and it's almost perfect. This stuff's supposed to take about 10 days to work. So keep in mind there's going to be some probably new growth. I'm going to respray it anyways, but I wanted to point this stuff out to you. So you can look down these rows. You will see some volunteer canola, not a ton, but it's going to get nuked anyways. And there's a little bit of kochia coming in patches here, there, especially there. But if you look this way, this is the spot where I blew my line. So there's a clear mark in the field where it goes from cover crop to none, essentially. And it's even more clear because I probably didn't have full, actually, if I remember right, this was rinse. This stuff here was rinse water. So it needs to get resprayed anyways. The stuff takes about 10 days to work. But you can just see the difference. This would have been probably rinse water too. But that to that. Do some zigzagging for you. And you know, some of this could have been a little bit of mist that carried over, didn't get the full rate, but the stuff definitely works. So we're cruising, we're getting to the end of what I did, and you can just see these really nice clear lines where the chemical pretty much nuked everything. Anything growing is new. We're gonna respray it I believe I got about 20 acres done before the rain. So that's the way we're gonna roll. And the other thing is, despite this being a really good day for spraying, it's really fortunate that you can see I'm staying back from the property line just a hair, and I'll do it from that side as well, because as we get so late in the season, we sowed that a couple weeks ago. Canola is just on the verge of popping through. It has in places. I'm not sure what Dave has in front of us, but I don't want to drift over onto his stuff or Dad's stuff. So I don't have to go right to the corners anymore, right to the property line. We'll be okay. Try and go around this mushy stuff. You can see I had to turn off my overlap on both. I'm not really sure if I have to on this one. I'm using my previous map. Probably would have just been easier to start fresh. But for the 20 acres, that's fine. Well, after seeing that last half section of wheat and this 3/4, I gotta think that combination of tile drainage and contouring are in our future. I've been looking at a bulldozer, but I think we gotta look pretty strongly into some tile drainage. Hey folks, ooh, I kind of look all out of sorts, but it is like June the 4th or something like that. And we're essentially in week, I don't know, it's getting forever. We're in the 5th week of what we thought would be seeding. Really, we're probably in the 4th week actually, because we didn't get much going in the 1st week of May. I have to go back and double check. Anyhow, I'm getting a bit disheveled. I don't shave during seeding. I'll do my neck, but don't cut my hair. So you'll know when seeding's over, because it'll be cleaned up nicely. What's up today? Well, it's a bit windy. Not that I need to spray all that badly. We have everything sprayed except for one field that is broken into 3 different parcels for a combined like 130 acres. And I'm guessing I'll probably only be able to get about 125 of that. That's going to be our very, very last field to go. Actually, sorry, that's going to be our last canola field. I would guess we will get to it. Today is Sunday. I would guess we'll get to it. Probably, if all goes well, we might get to move out there tomorrow afternoon. I'm hoping the wind dies off tonight. I can go out and spray it. But we are getting in the home stretch. I gotta think we're probably right under 1,000 right now. Between 950 and 1,000 acres to go. So that puts us at over 80%, which brings me to why I am here. This is my uncle's yard. This is kind of our south base. If you follow my other videos, you'll know that, well, everything down here has been done for a couple weeks. canola's popping up, the lentils are up, the durum's up. What am I doing down here? That bin is canola fertilizer. And the cereal fertilizer bin, as of right now, it only has about 2 tons left in it. And that's pretty much perfect. We expected that we would need to run to get a little more fertilizer towards the end of the season. We didn't think it was going to be in June. Like when we did all this planning back in January, December, hell, even before that, if you think about when we started floating, we kind of had a rough idea what we were going to do. We definitely don't buy extra, and we kind of round things down, and if we end up putting a little extra on, oh well. Hopefully we should have the moisture to get some solid crops at least started. If they get chasing that groundwater right now and the roots go down, oh, she could be a really nice looking crop. We still got to worry about, bugs, disease, hail, thunderstorms, wind, early frost. Yeah, all that stuff. Excessive heat. We're not even anywhere close to the bin yet. But we wanted to make sure that we run out of fertilizer so that we're not having to sit on that over the summer, because then it'll set up in the bottom of the bins, and that's just a nightmare. So as it stands right now, this bin, it has, if you can see, we're over there, that sight glass, the fertilizer is just touching the bottom of that. So I'm gonna guess, the way it's sloped down and cupped, I'm gonna guess it's about 7 ton. And Dad did the math, said we should need about 17. So we'll know better once we auger it out. Not gonna need it till mid-afternoon tomorrow anyways. And I think I have a wood tick. No, I don't. Felt something crawling up my leg. So, that's a step in the right direction. God, am I ready for this to be done. Like, don't get me wrong, I love it, the organized chaos and whatnot, but and seeding and whatnot, it's drug out much longer than it needed to.